Organised by the Classic Touring Car Racing Club, there's a glorious celebration of racing heritage at Brands Hatch today, spanning over half a century of motorsport. The Paul-inch Classic Race Engines Pre-66 touring car grid caters for the oldest cars and features the series sponsor himself.
Well, it's mini I built myself. I've had it for about 5 years now. Built it from scratch. It's got my own engine in it, which I build, and that's what I do for a living, build engines. And that's the reason I've got involved with this championship. There's about 5 cars here that I build engines for, and they were struggling for a sponsor beginning of the year, so I stepped in to help them. Lovely bunch of lads, and now I've started racing with them. It's yeah, a very good weekend out.
50 years ago, Frank Gardner won the British Saloon Car Championship in a Ford Falcon.
It's an American 1964 Ford Falcon. I imported it last year, and we're hoping to have our first outright win. You know, it's very friendly, good club racing, and you know, it's nice venues, nice people, nice cars.
This Morris Minor is steeped in history and has a special place on the grid.
It's a lovely car. Actually, it's been racing, not with me, but it's been racing for 37 years continuously. So it's the oldest car in the championship. It's 1955. It was built actually originally by a guy who was quite well known, who raced in the 1960s in New Zealand. And he was over here working for March Engineering and Andy Rice Racing, and he built that to race himself at weekends. So he's working on all this elaborate stuff, but built himself a Morris Minor car, and when the Classic Saloon Car Club first started, he raced that.
Racing with the Pre-66 entry, some equally special Pre-83 Group 1 cars.
It's a Droop Snoot Forenza. It's a 2.3 litre slant 4, quite a rare car. I qualified 9th, hoping to improve a bit on that position, so I don't know. Best I can achieve is probably top 6, I hope. That would be nice.
So we're all set for the first race of the day, the Pre-83 Group 1 touring cars and the Pre-66 Classic Saloons. Jim McLaughlin on pole position in the Ford Capri. Stephen Primmett in the Ford Escort Mark 1 starts alongside. As the lights go out, the race gets underway, and it's a poor start for Stephen Primmett, struggling to get the Escort Mark 1 off the line. So the pole sitter McLaughlin is going to be in the lead of the race. The blue and white Escort of Mark Chorlton is just about going to be in second place here from Stuart Kye in the Capri as they go through Paddock Hill Bend, and a spin for Kye off into the gravel trap as well for the Chevrolet Camaro of Alan Wayman. All sorts of other cars going off in avoidance. Tim Dodwell in the blue Sirocco has had to go to the infield. Getting going again is Stuart Kye. All sorts of other cars delayed in all of that. I think he may have been tagged. That caused a chain reaction. Everybody did really well to avoid any contact there. At the sharp end of the field, it's Jim McLaughlin from pole position that has a clear run at the end of lap number 1. Into clearways he comes. He was 3/10, nearly 4/10 quicker than anybody else in yesterday's qualifying session. In second place then, from third on the grid, it is the Escort 2000 of Mark Chorlton. A big gap back already to third, which from the third row of the grid is Peter Winston in the number 21 Ford Escort Mark 1. He started in 5th place. There's the Chevrolet Camaro, which was delayed. There is the number 48 Freddie Brown Hillman Imp, and just behind it is Stuart Kye, recovering from this big incident at turn 1. You go on board with Stuart now. He's got more power and a more modern car than some of those around him, but he's still got an awful lot of work to do if he wants to get back up with the front runners. So into Paddock Hill Bend he goes. He passes another car. That's at the inside of Luke Wilson's Austin A40. And on board now with Freddie Brown in the Hillman Imp. He gets a very good run up Halewood Hill. The door is opening up here. Can he get up the inside and gain a place on the number 69 car? Yes, he can on the brakes. He turns in. Through he goes up ahead. Stuart Kye is trying to gain more positions as we pick up the second group of cars from 4th down to 9th place. That's the number 19 Mike Haynes-driven Ford Capri, currently running in 8th place. At the head of the group, from 11th on the grid, is Alan Greenhall, the Ford Falcon, who leads the Pre-66 category. So let's get some replays of the start. Look at the white Stephen Primmett Ford Escort Mark 1. He gets off the line initially well, then a problem develops with the car. He gets sucked back into the pack. While at the head of the field, the drama was about to unfold. This is the view back on board with Stuart Kye in the Capri. Number 21 Ford Escort is Pete Winstone. There was the contact. That sent Stuart all the way around at the foot of Paddock Bend. And it was a rather frantic start for those further back as well. On board with Paul Cooper in the Ford Cortina, having to weave and dodge his way through the cars. He got a good start, hooked it up well. The number 48, Freddie Brown, Hillman Imp, the blue and white car, got off to a decent start as well. They took the high line, both of them, on the way into Paddock Hill Bend for the first time. Up ahead was where the incident had happened, and standing on the brakes to avoid the stranded Capri was Paul Cooper. Did a good job to avoid any collision. One of the cars delayed in the incident was this glorious multicoloured BMW CSL driven by William Jenkins. That sort of car developed and raced very successfully in the European Touring Car Championship in the mid-1970s. As we go on board with the Alfa Romeo of Simon Jeffs, he is chasing down Gary Fletcher's Vauxhall Forenza for 10th place in the race. There's the Falcon, and there are two Capris then battling for 5th place outright. These two teammates, number 34 is Alan Wilshire, number 43 is Malcolm Best. And it's Malcolm who gets the best of his teammate there on that long run down into Paddock Hill Bend. You go back on board with the Alfa Romeo Alfa Sud as he climbs up Harewood Hill and into the braking zone for the right-hand hairpin at Druids Corner. Up ahead, the Gary Fletcher car is making a move. That's gaining a place on Mike Haynes' Ford Capri. And now Malcolm Best is trying to go around the outside of the Ford Falcon and doing so. So that's to get him up into 4th place. He's having a good lap here. They're coming up to lap the blue Tim Dodwell-driven Volkswagen Sirocco as they go up the Cooper Straight. The Falcon is going to get boxed in, so Malcolm Best keeps it around the outside, but now his line is covered off as the back marker gets in his way. The Falcon back through to 4th place, and the Vauxhall Forenza has got sent off as well onto the grass while everybody was trying to dodge and weave their way through. There's number 34, Capri of Alan Wilshire, trying to get back on his teammate, almost running out of road. And you've also got the Mini of Paul Inch getting stuck in as well. Here is a replay. Tim Dodwell didn't know which way to go, he was trying to get out of everybody's way. And there was the contact between Alan Wilshire and the number 80 Gary Fletcher, Vauxhall Forenza. Completely accidental that, but it cost him some time. And here is a spin from a Mini. It's number 5, I'm afraid, Adam Messam, who's gone around in the Austin Mini 7 at high speed. He gathers it back up together as coming past him with the onboard camera is Freddie Brown in the Hillman Imp to gain a place. The Mini gets going again but loses all of its momentum going up the hill. Through comes the number 69 Luke Wilson car, and then the race leader, which is still only a couple of seconds clear of Mark Chalton, so it's still tight at the head of the pack as they start to come through the traffic. Out wide at Graham Hill Bend goes Freddie Brown, and through to regain the position comes Luke Wilson, and he's not happy about that. Somebody else, I'm afraid, with a sad face is going to be Alan Wayman as his Chevrolet Camaro goes smoking slowly back to the pits with a problem. Back on board with Stuart Carr as he launches an attack here on the Batmobile of William Jenkins on the curbs, but through he squeezes. Downhill now, uphill again into towards Druids, and the Batmobile comes back around him. William Jenkins in the BMW regaining the place. Stuart Kai, having had this drama at the start of the race, is now back up into 13th position as way out wide goes Michael Sheraton in the Ford Anglia. A bit of rally crossing, but he gets it back on the track as we rejoin Stuart Kai coming up the Cooper Straight now, and he's got the inside line here on the way into Surtees. Through he comes. You're right on board with Stuart, and he's making a tremendous job here of carving his way back up through the field. So there is the Capri, which started, don't forget, all the way up 4th on the grid, and he's already pulling away from the BMW. Now this is a replay of a move which has just happened. At number 19 it was Mike Haynes regaining a position on Paul Inch inside the top 10. There, though, is your race leader. Still only about 2.5 seconds between him and Mark Chalton, who's done a good job of keeping up with the Capri. And then in 3rd place, Peter Winston, having a relatively lonely race after all the dramas at start. At 4th, and still leading the pre-66 category, is the mighty Ford Falcon, driven by Alan Greenhall, but he's coming under threat now from Gary Fletcher, who's made a good comeback, having been on the grass, don't forget, a few laps ago in the Vauxhall Forenza. Then you got the 2 Ford Capris, the lead of which at the moment is number 34, Alan Wilshire, has got back ahead of Malcolm Best, and on board with Stuart Kai is coming up to the Alfa Sud now to gain another place here. He's back up into the top 10. Important this because the race 1 result determines where you start for race 2. It's going to be pole position though for race 2 for this man because the flag is out, and it's a victory for Jim McLaughlin. Mark Chalton 2nd, Peter Winston completing the podium.
After 2 years off, and we built a brand new car, it's first time out. So yeah, we're really chuffed to be up at the sharp end, and fingers crossed we'll see if we can do the same again later on.
And the winner of the Pre-66 Classic Saloons was Alan Greenhall, followed by the Minis of Paul Inch and Neil Bray.
It's always tough battling with the pre-83s because obviously they're much more modern cars, and somebody spilled some oil on the track, so that made it even more exciting, especially in a big American V8.
Our next race features the Hammerite Classic Thunder Saloons.
Well, as a company, we've been involved with the CTRC for about 10 years, but more so over the past 3 years with the sponsorship of the Thunder Class Saloon. It's great publicity for our brands, mainly the Hammerite and Waxhaw brands, but it also gives the opportunity to sort of come along to the events, bring customers, and actually show us what it's all about. It's such a relaxed family atmosphere, and they get to go around, meet the drivers, see the cars, and you can't get as much closer to the racing than you do here.
Cars are out on track for the first race of the weekend for the Hammerite Classic Thunder Saloon Championship and Toyo Tyres Honda VTEC Challenge. Gent will be on his own on the front row of the grid though, because Gary Whittaker, who qualified second, has not made the start of the race. It's a rolling start, the lights go out, and it's an easy run into Paddock Hill Bend for Gent. Tucking in behind him in second place is going to be Dave Cockle in the Ford Escort Cosworth. You ride on board with Rob Birkinshaw, the leading Honda exponent, and he's tucked in behind Mike Hibbert's BMW. So up Hellwood Hill to come for the first time. Gent leads, Cockle in second. Then you've got Ilse Cox from fourth place into third position here in the Seat. Then it's Mike Hibbert, and you ride on board in fifth place with the leading Honda of Rob Birkinshaw. It's making a good start from the fourth row of the grid into the left-hander at Graham Hill Bend to go for the first time. Ian Craig just behind in sixth place as Rob Birkinshaw now goes on the attack, trying to draw alongside the BMW of Mike Hibbert at the Cooper Straight. But Mike is quick enough on the brakes, late enough on the brakes to be able to fend him off for the first time under attack. So it's going to be the Subaru of Gent that leads at the end of the first lap by well over a second, I would say. Dave Cockle in second place, Ilse Cox in third, the BMW of Mike Hibbert, and then the Honda of Rob Birkinshaw rounding out the top 5 positions. There in 10th place is the black and green Toyota Starlet of Steve Waterman. And just behind him, the unmissable Honda Civic Type R of James Alford as the safety car comes out. The reason for the pause in the racing, I'm afraid, Tony Palmer's glorious Ford Escort has come to grief at the end of the first lap. On board with Rob Birkinshaw, the safety car has peeled in. We're about to go green again here at Brands Hatch, and so Gent leads them away. Perfect restart by him. Dave Cockle won't be able to find an answer for him on the way to Paddock Hill Bend, but he's got a couple of lengths advantage over the Seat of Ilse Cox. Then it's Mike Hibbert in the BMW, and then the Honda with the onboard camera of Rob Birkinshaw. So it's as you were in terms of the top 6 on the brakes. They all concertina up together on the way to Druids Corner. There is Malcolm Wise in the yellow and white Ford Escort Cosworth. Hugely experienced, very quick driver. He's in the same category as Gent, so qualified slightly lower down the order than you would expect. Watch for him perhaps then to come charging through. Then we've got a good battle here between the Seat of Bradley Kaler, that's number 331, the yellow and grey car, and just behind him the BMW of Michael Eustace in the M3. Then it's the Honda Accord of Andrew Mitzi, the 141 car. So there is second, third and fourth coming up to lap. One of the newcomers to racing, Jason Evans, the novice driver in the Honda Civic Type R. Through they go, not much between the Seat and the BMW, not much between this BMW and the Honda Accord, and catching them both is the Jaguar XJR of Richard Askham, the number 47 car. And the Maroon Machine gets a tremendous run then, coming out through Clark Curve, a huge amount of power, looks fantastic with the rear wing, flames spinning out the back. And up ahead you've got Michael Eustace about to pull off a move on the Seat of Bradley Kaler into the first corner as well. And then we've got this mid-pack train being led by number 49, Steve Waterman in the Toyota Starlet. And a squabble for second place in the Honda VTEC category as 499 William Caswell goes storming around the outside of the 432 Chris Sparks car. But Chris is slowing. I think he already had a problem developing, and the car is ailing, I'm afraid, up the Hellwood Hill. So they'll come steaming past him on the way into Druids Corner. He gets to the inside and sensibly gets well out of the way of the quicker cars as a huge amount of smoke comes pouring out of Ben Dewan's BMW 323 and sends it to a spin on the slippery stuff. Benjamin Griffiths in the Honda. So that has just blown something big style, and poor old Ben Griffiths came upon a load of oil as soon as he arrived at Druids. So he was the first man there, and that was awfully bad luck. So that looks quite expensive, I'm afraid. A big blow-up and around, and I think just kissing the barrier went the Honda, but Ben, OK, should be able to carry on. Now, I mentioned Malcolm Wise might be one to watch. That is him steaming around the outside of the BMW of Ian Craig. That is up to 6th place now. His next target is this man, Rob Birkinshaw, with the onboard camera in the Honda as he slows the car down into the Druids hairpin, turns right, coming alongside him. Look, is Malcolm Wise. He goes through, but then slows up because that car, the BMW, is stricken at the side of the circuit. They both come upon it really late on, and I think this is now Rob slowing up deliberately to let Malcolm back past. That's what it looks like anyway, and sensibly so. Now what's this up at Druid? Steve Waterman in the Toyota Starlet going straight on into the barriers. We've also got off James Alford's Honda Civic Type R, so they both come to grief at the hairpin, walking away from the car, which is good to see, but hugely frustrating. Well, into the closing stages, Ilse Cox has done a fabulous job of fending off Mike Hibbert's BMW. for third place. It's also for the A2 class lead within the Hammerite Classic Thunder Saloon Championship. So plenty at stake, and plenty at stake here for Rob Birkinshaw, because Ian Craig has found a way alongside him. He's got the better run into the right-hander at Paddock Hill Bend, and that will be him up into the top 6 now. Add a little bit wide and deep into the corner to try and slingshot past is Rob Birkinshaw. He's not going to make it, but he still, of course, leads the VTEC category. And they're in 8th place overall, the Audi TT of Paul Hand. But the checkered flag is only going to go one way. It's to this man. Dale Gent wraps up a win by 4 seconds here, and the still driver on the final lap as off at Druids. Guess where goes the 331 Seat of Bradley Kaler. So there is the result. Dale Gent, Dave Cockle and Ilse Cox, the top 3.
Everyone behind us getting us here has done very well to get us here. I can't thank them enough. It's down to them why we're so quick. I just drive it. They're the one who prepare it and make it reliable for me and that, so I can't thank all them guys enough. But no, it's going well. Hopefully we can carry it on for the second race.
Victory in the Toyo Tyres Honda VTEC Challenge went to Rob Birkinshaw, ahead of Andrew Mitzi and Chris Criddle.
Yeah, good race. We had a cracking start. Pretty much went to plan until the Royal All Out circuit, which was a close thing. Good race, yeah.
Among those contesting the Toyo Tyres Pre-05 touring cars is Steve Barber and his 2 sons.
I started racing a few years ago, then the boys decided they want to have a go as well. So here we are, all 3 of us. So they've just started, they're on the 2nd or 3rd meeting just now, and yeah, we're a family team trying to have some fun.
But which generation of the Barber clan is quickest?
Oh, it's definitely Dad. We can't say anything different, can we?
But you're getting a bit quick behind me, though. You keep trying to push in all the time, so I've got to fight him off now as well.
Racing alongside them, but for the Bill Stein Classic VW Cup, will be Stuart Kendall.
We purchased this car about 18 months, 2 years ago. We actually ran the car 20 years ago when it was in the VW Championship then. We've put it back into period livery. It was David Pinkney that drove it then. Myself, Andrew Dean and David now own the car, and we're just sort of taking turns, having a little drive in it and having some fun.
A third category in action will be the Smart 4-2 Cup, organised by James Palmer.
I used to race in brick car when it very first started. One brick car the first year and then stopped racing. And then I bought a smart car, and then we started to produce performance parts for it, and then we started to race them. So we've been doing it for 6 seasons now. They are like a little go-kart, really responsive, really good fun. We do have a little bit more horsepower so we could play with the bigger cars, but we'll try and have a good go with them.
3 categories racing in this one, and it's the VWs that dominate the first few rows of the grid, with Dan Roberts-Jefferson on pole position, but Mark Lloyd-Jones will be missing from 3rd on the grid in his VW Corrado. They drop the clutches, the race gets underway, and it's a good start for Ken Locke in the silver VW Corrado. He's going to get the lead of the race here from the pole sitter Dan Roberts-Jefferson. Into 3rd place, it's going to be Rob Gillam as they make their way through Paddock Hill Bend for the first time. And out of shape there is Alistair Lindsay in the VW Golf. Just got the back end loose. Onto the infield he goes, bumpity bump over the grass, and he'll really join somewhere in the second half of the field. In the Pre-05 category, it looks like the Clio of Chris Bright ahead of the MG of Neil Bray. There are the top 2. 3rd for Rob Gillam. 4th, a good start for Stuart Kendall in the pink and white VW Vento. The Beetle of Steve Rowland just behind him. It's Dan Roberts-Jefferson up into the lead of the race here. A very good start for Rory Baptiste as well in the VW Golf. He's gone from 11th up to 6th. There he is in the silver and red machine. And yes, the silver and blue Clio of Chris Bright leads the Pre-05s. Then this squabble between the 2 Peugeots. The orange and black machine is Marcus Lambert. The pink and grey machine is Mario Neophytou, who's trying to come around the outside for 3rd in class at Paddock Hill Bend. And there's contact here. That is the number 2 Smart for 2 of Simon Coverdale coming together with the Ford Puma of Alex Mill Barber, and the Smart car coming off worse. And at Druids, that changed for 3rd in the Pre-05s. Neophytou has come past Lambert. Just behind, you've got the black VW of Simon Arthrell as well. Those 3 together as they make their way out through Graham Hill Bend. Now, replay of this incident, and 2 didn't fit into 1. 2 relatively small cars trying to find a big bit of space on the track. Meanwhile, for the lead in the Smart 4-2 Cup, it is absolutely wing mirror to wing mirror here, and the black number 9 car of Daniel Turner squeezing underneath Simon Horrobin there on the way to Paddock Hill Bend. Tremendous move as we look at the race leader, who's just lapping third in the Smart 4-2 Cup. That is the car of James Palmer, and there the race leader, Dan Roberts-Jefferson, on his way, is 7 seconds clear now of Ken Lark, who got the early race lead. And then still in third, having a relatively lonely time, is Rob Gillam in the VW Golf. So top 3 spaces all filled by VWs. Coming out of the pits, the 320 car of Chris Mohan, which qualified in 10th place. So he's had dramas in the race. And this is the VW Beetle of Steve Rowland, getting a tremendous run, coming out onto the start-finish straight. This is for 4th place. He's trying to go around the outside. Very good on the brakes, though, from the Bento of Stuart Kendall to fend him off. They're continuing on his way and pulling clear now in the lead of the Smart 4-2 Cup is Dan Turner. There's James Palmer's multicoloured car, which runs in 3rd place. The Clio of Chris Bright leads the pre-05 division. Back into 2nd place now is Steve Barber, who qualified on Class Pole. There he is in the blue Clio. Neil Bray's MG 3rd, Marcus Lambert's Peugeot in 4th, and the 206 of Craig Langley just behind now in 5th place, the silver and green car. And nose to tail for 7th in class between the Alpha of Ken Adlard and Rob Lewis in the Ford Focus. Into the closing stages, the Beetle of Steve Rowland is up now into 4th place, and into 5th place, Alistair Lindsay, who had that spin, remember, at the start of the race. There's the Clio of Steve Barber, absolutely flying now, but Neil Bray trying to get 2nd place back away from him in the pre-05 category, drawing alongside, but the Clio noses back in front. There's the race leader who's lapped everybody up to 2nd place, up to Ken Lark now. The checkered flag comes out, and it's victory for Dan Roberts-Jefferson. Ken Lark 2nd, Rob Gillam 3rd, and Alistair Lindsay, with a great recovery, got to 4th in the end.
To be fair, I'm the only super modified car on slicks as well, so I mean we got a bit of a lead in that one. We did at Cadwell before as well, so it's always good to win there.
In the Toyo Tyres pre-2005 production touring cars, it was Chris Bright from Steve Barber, with up to 3rd place Mario Neophytou after Neil Bray had a late excursion in the MG. And a narrow victory for Daniel Turner over Simon Horrobin in the Smart Cars 4-2 Cup. James Palmer in 3rd.
Considering the smart cars are looked at as the little baby race cars, we were actually holding our own with the back end of the grid, and it was a good race between me and Simon in the orange car, and I'm just really happy to cross the line. And it's amazing that a 15-minute race when you're in the lead seems to go on forever.
The next group of cars competing at this classic touring car festival includes beloved models from the Blue Oval.
I've owned this car for 29 years. It was actually my road car. I used to come and watch racing with it. It's been a race car since 2004, and I've been racing for roughly about 11 years with it.
So this is how the first few rows of the grid line up, with Alexander Owen and Gareth Pilling on the front row in their Honda Civic Type Rs. The fastest pre-93 qualifier was Dave Hickton, the BMW in 5th place. The fastest Ford, Brian Long's Fiesta, in 6th place on the grid as they get underway straight away, and it's a poor start for both of the front row men. So from 4th on the grid, it's the blue and white Luke Allen Honda Civic that gets the lead of the race from Phil Wright. There's also been a magnificent start around the outside for the Ford Sierra of Craig Jamieson, which started in 10th place, on board with Chris Baker, who looked like he also made a handy start around Paddock Hill Bend. Here they come then for the first time, and it might well be 3rd place here for the Sierra of Craig Jamieson, who was challenging the Hondas around the outside. So yes, there into 2nd place in fact he goes at Graham Hill Bend from 10th on the grid. Craig Jamieson on board now with Andy Sheraton from the back of the grid. Just ahead of him, Simon Beaumont in the green and white Ford Escort. Both of them whiz past Simon Arthrall's black VW Golf. And here are the leaders. So Luke Allen from 4th on the grid. Tremendous start. Here's the view on board with him now. He's going to lead, but not by very much at the end of the first lap, because coming after him from 10th on the grid is that Ford Sierra. And there, a little bit further back, a great start for the yellow BMW of Mark Fowler as well. That's come from 16th on the grid. And also from Carl Catliff, that dark blue BMW from the back of the grid, halfway up the order already. On board with Robert May in the Toyota, who's just gone whizzing past the Fiesta of Chris Brown, and is about to do the same, I think, to Brian Long. There, then the top 3 in the race, making their way through Druids. Big lock-up from the BMW of Andy Sheraton, almost into the back of Dawn Boyd, and then losing a place on the exit to Rory Baptiste in the VW. Back on board with Robert May, who's getting a good workout here as he wrestles the wheel. Now he gets a good run, he thumps up through the gears, and he gets past the number 3 car of Brian Long, as I'm afraid into retirement already goes the Accord of Alan O'Gorman. Now for a replay of the start, poor getaway for Alexander Owen and from Gareth Pilling, less so for him, but both of them overtaken by Luke Allen and Phil Wright from the second row of the grid. As there's contact between Brian Long and Andrew Sheraton, the BMW sent spinning around, collected by Dawn Boyd, who had nowhere to go. It's damaged, it's stranded on the circuit, and back on board with the race leader, Luke Allen now, who is now down to second place, because through comes the Sierra of Craig Jamieson, and through too comes Carl Catliffe from the back of the grid, just as they come up to this yellow flag zone. So they just got through in time. There are double wave yellows, and I think there's probably going to be a safety car as well, because that car is going nowhere. In fact, there's another one off. Alistair Lindsay, for the second time today, has had an off at Paddock Hill Bend, and it brings about the red flags. So a replay of the Andy Sheraton incident, on board with him now, and gets clipped by the Fiesta. Round it goes, and bang. That was Dawn Boyd collecting him, and damage to the car. Here is a replay again from the outside. Dawn Boyd had absolutely nowhere to go. She collected the left rear corner of the BMW. So they're gridded back up in race order. We get going again, and tremendous start off the line for the BMW of Carl Catliffe. He is definitely pushing on Craig Jamieson in the Ford Sierra, and charging around the outside of everybody like a stallion, Robert May in the Toyota. And up Hellwood Hill they come. It's the BMW on the inside, the Sierra on the outside. I think Carl Catliffe will have it. Luke Allen is trying to be in third place as well. On board with him now. I think he's done it. Yes, he squeezes through. It's still absolutely neck and neck for the lead of the race, though. And back through then comes the 46 BMW of David Hickton, and he loses another place as well, as the Honda Civic of Alexander Owen, the original pole sitter, comes through on the exit to Graham Hill Bend. It's still neck and neck for the lead of the race, but finally Jamieson gets through, then runs deep into the corner. Carl Catliffe carries a huge amount of speed on the way into McLaren. Through they come, he gets the lead back. Fantastic touch stuff, these cars slipping and sliding around. Great car control, great racing from everybody out there. So the end of the first lap of the restart, through they come. It's BMW, Ford Sierra, BMW, then Alexander Owen in the Honda Civic, and then the one that dropped back a bit now with the onboard camera losing another place. That's Mark Fowler coming through, and going backwards at this stage of the race is Luke Allen. Now this is a replay on the exit to Druids on the first restart lap, and coming together, two Hondas, the Accord of Phil Wright sent onto the grass. It was coming together with Gareth Pilling. Looks like it's the end of the day, though, I'm afraid, for Mark Beaumont. He is headed for the pit lane. So up front, the BMW coming under attack once again from the Ford Sierra, and Carl Catliffe breaks deep into the corner, but the Sierra's got up the inside and I think has gone through into the lead of the race. Back on board with Luke Allen, who's trying to catch back up to the BMW, which gets completely sideways. Mark Fowler drifting it through the corner, losing all traction, somehow keeping it on the road. But Luke Allen will gain the place on the run to Druids. There he goes through to snatch the position back. That was some mighty car control to keep it roughly pointed in the right direction from Mark Fowler. Now here's the Astra of Simon Ward gaining a place on James Alford, late on the brakes and having to think about getting 2 for 1 here as he gangs up on Gareth Pilling. Back on board with Robert May as he gets past Peter Moffat's Ford Escort Mark 1, gets ever closer to the top 10. So there is Rob to the left of your picture in the black Toyota Corolla, doing a very good job here in this race. Final run through clearways for the two race leaders. They're absolutely swamped with traffic. It's still the Sierra of Craig Jamieson just ahead of Carl Catliffe here. Can Carl get a better run through the traffic towards the checkered flag? No is the answer, and it's Craig Jamieson that wins from 10th place to take the checkered flag. Alexander Tate in the Fiesta, the second best of the Burton Power Blue Oval Saloon Series drivers, with Chris Brown in third. Then in the pre-93 touring car, second overall, but the winner of the category, Carl Catliffe from Dave Hickton and Mark Fowler. And finally, it's Alexander Owen who wins the pre-03s.
It wasn't as plain sailing as it maybe looked. We had actually a problem in qualifying where our ECU died, and we actually thought we weren't racing today. So thanks to Ross Craig, who raced in the Pre-03 Championship as well, he had a spare ECU, so we put that in the car, and we're about 30 horsepower down than what we should be. So it was good to win, but it made it very, very hard.
It's Pre-83 Group 1 cars next, where Alan Wilshire finished 5th in race 1.
It's a 2.8 injection full Capri, so on the later cars of that era, and they, depending which championship you run in, they are either a kind of a front-running car or they're a bit behind the more modern cars. So as it gets older, hopefully we'll get even more competitive.
Tim Dodwell is one of the most experienced racers in the UK. He brought this Sirocco from the 625-time race-winning legend Jerry Marshall.
Well, I started off doing an autocross in a Mini, my road going Mini, just to settle a bet with a colleague at work that his Imp, he reckoned, was quicker than my Mini, and so we entered an autocross to prove it. And then I was hooked on motorsport. Now it's 67, and been doing it ever since.
At the opposite end of the experience spectrum is newcomer Bradley Bosdet.
It's a 1600 Crossflow Mark II Escort. Built myself in the garage, and first season racing. Broke 2 engines so far, so like I say, just to finish the race will be an achievement.
Meanwhile, Luke Wilson is hopeful of a positive result at this track in his Austin A40.
I love Brands Hatch. I have to admit, it's one of my favourite circuits. There's all the corners really match the gearing for the car. It's a really good circuit for these sort of cars. Great racing, neck and neck with a lot of other drivers. So, yeah, no, really enjoy it. Yeah.
And aiming to match his pre-66 class podium from race 1, Neil Bray.
I was praying for rain really, because obviously with only 1275 we can go after the big Falcons and everything like that if it's raining, but a good third, I was happy with that.
Victory in race 1 gives Jim McLaughlin pole position for the second pre-83 and pre-66 race of the day. Missing from 6th on the grid though will be Gary Fletcher. Problems with the Vauxhall Forenza. As the lights go out, the race gets underway. Stuttering start from the pole sitter, so into the lead is going to go the blue and white Ford Escort of Mark Charlton. The Capri of Jim McLaughlin settles into 2nd place. Then it's number 21 Peter Winston. Looking back from the Capri of Stuart Carr, tremendous start. He's come from 8th, and I reckon he's up to 4th place as the huge Ford Falcon of Alan Greenhall twitches and dances its way out of Paddock Hill Bend. It's still side by side for 4th position, but Stuart Carr's got the better line through Druids, and through he comes ahead of the Ford Falcon. You've also got Alan Wilshire in the red and white Ford Capri trying to find a way through as well. It's been a good start for Mike Haynes. He's got in between the two teammates ahead of Malcolm Best. The Alpha Zed of the Mini just behind as well, inside the top 10, but there is the race leader, Mark Charlton, making his way out through clearways and towards Clark Kerr for the first time in the race. And there, up already into the top 10 is number 1. Fantastic from Stephen Primmett. He had a problem with the car off the line in race 1. He retired in the end. He's had to come from a huge way down the order. And a good duel here between 2 Morris miners. The red machine is Keith Wright. The maroon machine is Patrick Harris, who failed to start the first race. 3 laps in, and Mark Charlton is steadily growing his advantage over Jim McLaughlin. The pair of them are well clear now of the rest of the field. And then we look back from Stuart Carr, who is for once being caught rather than attacking, and it's by Stephen Primmett, who comes from a mile back on the way to Paddock Hill Bend and dives down the inside and goes through into 4th place now from the back of the field. Look at this, David versus Goliath, the Ford Falcon versus Paul Inch in the Mini. The spectacular Michael Sheraton in the Ford Anglia trying to catch the Ford Fiesta of Sam Goodwin. And now we've got Stephen Primmett taking a huge amount of speed around the outside of Surtees. He's got the line for McLaren, and through he goes up into 3rd place now from the back of the grid. And he's just dancing around. It's a tremendous driver, Stephen Primmett. He's been driving that car for many years now. As slow, I'm afraid, for the Alpha Cert. It looks like it's going to be retirement for Simon Jeffs. We get a replay of this fantastic move from Stephen Primmett. The car skitting around. Out of the race, though, I'm afraid Patrick Harris has had a very disappointing day. Now we've got a change of lead luck. The Capri suddenly arrives at Druids ahead of the Escort. In the pre-66 category, a fantastic little duel between Freddie Brown's-Hillman and him. Just behind him, a Lotus Cortina of Paul Cooper. As arriving on his own and back into the lead of the race is Mark Charlton, because, oh dear, Jim McLaughlin's car is grinding to a halt. He had just picked up the lead of the race, and suddenly it is crawling to a halt. Stephen Primmett has just whizzed past, and now he's up into 2nd place. Meanwhile, number 12 is Tony Crates in the silver Ford Lotus Cortina in 9th place. In 10th place, leading pre-66 just is Alan Greenhall in the Ford Falcon, but with Paul Inch just behind, as there's more frustration for Bradley Bosdet retiring his Ford Escort. Well, in the few laps since he picked up 2nd place, Stephen Primmett has got the gap down to the leader from nearly 6 seconds to just over 3 seconds, but I fear he may be running out of time. This the squabble for 3rd place, and Stuart Carr getting a run there on the number 21 Peter Winstone Ford Escort down the straight. Number 34, Alan Wilshire, is in 5th place. That red Capri of Mike Haynes is in 6th place. He's just lapping the battle between the Hillman Imp and Freddie Brown. Just behind him, Paul Cooper in the Ford Cortina. Mark 1 losing the back end, oversteering through the turn, spinning to the infield here, right at the end of the race. And there we've got a battle for 7th place on as well. 43 is Malcolm Best in the Capri. Just behind him, the bright purple Jaguar XJS of Mark Taylor. As recovering now is Paul Cooper to see himself home to the flag. And leading now the category in Pre-66 is Paul Inch, because retirement, I'm afraid, for the Ford Falcon of Alan Greenhall. He begins his last lap as the flag comes out, ready for our overall race winner in Pre-83. It's Mark Cholton who takes the checkered flag. Super drive from Stephen Primmett in 2nd place, and Stuart Kai rounds out the podium. Meanwhile, it's a mini 1-2-3 in the Pre-66 category. Paul Inch taking victory from Neil Bray and Andy Messam. The VW Classic Cup is next to go out. Robert Gillam was 3rd in race 1.
I love it around here. It's more technical. It's a bit more of a level playing field, because those with the big power outputs aren't able to get the legs on something, long straights and that sort of thing. I love it around here. Yeah, it's good fun.
Nick Penfold also enjoyed a strong result, 7th in his Mark 1 Golf.
We've had this car actually for about 16, 17 years, and we decided to bring her out of mothballs and bring her back into racing again after our children grew up a little bit. The car's going well now. We've just got it somewhere handy, so come the race, we should be going quite well.
Second race of the day at this festival of classic touring car racing for the Classic VW Cup, the Pre-05 production touring cars and the Smart Cars 4-2 Cup. The grid based on race 1 results, so leading them away it's Dan Roberts-Jefferson in the red VW Mark 4 Golf, but Ken Lark makes a decent start and he's certainly giving him something to think about on the run into Paddock Hill Bend. It's going to be Rob Gillam holding station in 3rd place, then the VW Vento of Stuart Kendall. The pink and white machine gets a good run. He outstrips the VW Golf of Steve Rowland for 4th place on the run into Halewood Hill. It's going to be tight between him and Alistair Lindsay in the VW Golf for 5th place as well. A few lock up and push on as they come into Druids for the first time. And for 5th place, it'll just be the black VW Beetle fending off Alistair Lindsay as a rather less eventful first lap than he had in the first race, with that spin onto the infield through Paddock Hill Bend, from which he recovered rather magnificently later on in the race. So there are the top 3, 4th, 5th and 6th as they gave them to you. Then it's the 307 VW Golf of Nick Penfold in 7th place. And then it's the leader of the Pre-05 division, which is going to be once again Chris Bright in the silver and blue Renault Clio, having won the category in the race earlier on today. There he is, crossing the line at the end of lap number 1 with a fairly healthy advantage as well. And there's the Peugeot 206 of Craig Langley, trying but failing to pass the VW Sirocco, which is a bit more brunt in a straight line. Tom Bateson stays ahead for the time being. And off the road, I'm afraid, for Simon Coverdale in the number 2 Smart Ford 2 Cup car. Race settling into its rhythm now, but we've got a very strong battle once again for Smart Car dominance and contact between the two of them. So it's number 1 Alan Palmer in the white and red car, being clipped there by the number 14 Simon Horrobin car, but they survive. Big lock-up then as he drags the tyres on the way into Graham Hill Bend. There is smoke coming from the front right of the race leaders VW Golf. Dan Robertson-Jefferson potentially in trouble. In 4th place, Stuart Kendall in the VW Vento. The Beetle of Steve Rowland is 5th, and from the back of the grid, the Seat of Bradley Kaler is in 6th place and absolutely closing in on him as the race leader slips and slides his way through Graham Hill Bend on his own oil, I think. Out wide he goes and he's in trouble here. He's being caught all the time by Ken Lark there in the Corrado, who will probably have seen the recovering race leader. Into 2nd place now at the Smart 4-2 Cup, the black Daniel Turner car, the number 9 car, so the orange number 14 of Simon Horrobin down to 3rd place in the category. And sadly, into retirement then goes Dan Roberts-Jefferson. He's headed straight for the pit lane. So that will put Ken Lark up into the lead of the race here, and he's going to have a pretty healthy advantage over the next best car, which is Rob Gillam, who is some 13 or 14 seconds back. There's Chris Bright, who leads once again the Pre-05 division from Steve Barber, but it's close for 3rd place between the 212 Craig Langley Peugeot, Neil Bray in the MG, and also Mario Neophytou just behind. And from 2nd in the Smart Car division, it's Daniel Turner pointing in the wrong direction, coming around in to take the place, Simon Horrobin. On the gas for the final time then, the checkered flag in sight, and it's going to be a victory here for Ken Lark in the second race of the weekend for the Bilstein Pre 03 Classic VW Cup. Rob Gillam second, Stuart Kendall in third place. Meanwhile, in the Toyo Tyres Pre-2005 division, it's another victory for Chris Bright, with Steve Barber second, and after some late changes, Mario Neophytou rounds out the podium. And finally, in the Smart Cars 4-2 Cup, a victory for Alan Palmer, Daniel Turner recovering late on to get back that second place from Simon Horrobin. It's the second and final race of the day for the Hammerite Classic Thunder Saloons and the Toyo Tyres Honda VTEC Challenge, as the winner of the earlier race, Dale Gent, starts on pole position. Dave Cockle alongside Ilse Cox and Mike Hibbert on the second row of the grid. As the lights go out, we get underway. Perfect start for Dale Gent, very good start for Cockle. It's tight for third place though. The BMW, Mike Hibbert trying to go around the outside of Ilse Cox, on board with Rob Birkinshaw in the Honda, winner of the VTEC Challenge in the earlier race. He's got Malcolm Wise just ahead of him, and Ian Craig's BMW as well. Mike Hibbert has got to third place at Druids. He's ahead of Ilse Cox. Those two fought hard in the earlier race. And then you've got the Malcolm Wilson Ford Escort, then Ian Craig's BMW, and then with the onboard, the Honda Integra. There are the three of them making their way for the first time through Graham Hill Bend. Careful not to run too wide on the exit onto the Cooper Straight. They then go. The rest of the field firing their way through, including those that came to grief, many of them up at Druids in the first race, who've had to start from the back of the field. Ilse Cox trying to get back her third position and class position away from Mike Hibbert. And now you've got coming back around the outside of Rob Birkinshaw's Honda, Malcolm Wise. So those two must have switched around briefly, but with a lot more power, the Ford Escort Cosworth charged back through. Ilse Cox looking to the inside of Mike Hibbert on the way to Druids. I think she might have got through. Rob Birkinshaw is trying to get his place back from Malcolm Wise. And then we got the mighty Jaguar XJR of Richard Askham with the Audi of Richard Pond and the BMW of Michael Eustace just behind. Side by side there between those two. The Audi's just got the better line though, coming down the hill into Graham Hill Bend. There's number 49, which is the Toyota Starlet of Steve Waterman. And likewise, the green James Alford driven Honda Civic. Those two came off at the same time on a slippery, slidey run into Druids Corner. So they're having to fight their way again from the back of the field. It's giving us and them lots of entertainment. This is the fight for fifth place overall. Look at Malcolm Wise. He's found a gap. He's got his toe in the door. He squeezes through and passes Ian Craig. So the BMW down to sixth place as the midfielders now run through. There is the 499 Honda of William Caswell, the Civic 2000, which is running second in the VTEC Challenge at the moment, with this gaggle of BMW, Jaguar and Audi just ahead of him. And the Audi TT and Richard Pond, who had a quiet first race, is getting stuck in this race. He gets ahead of the Jaguar on the way into the hairpin. There is second place. Flash Lightning McQueen striping on the side of the car. But it is Dave Cockle edging away from Ilse Cox, who did get through, luck into third place. Mike Hibbert, she is now leaving behind in the BMW. And then in fifth place, after that move that you just saw, it is Malcolm Wise, whose weekend gets better and better after a disappointing qualifying session. There are three Hondas on three different laps. The green and black car is Peter Dunmore. He's 2 laps down, but second in the VTEC category, the grey car of William Caswell. And after his last lap off at Druids, starting near the back, up to 15th place now for Bradley Kaler in the Seat. On to the final lap, and this is the battle for 9th place. Steve Waterman in the Toyota Starlet, a daredevil move on the way to Druids to gain the place from Michael Eustace. A great run from the back of the field. Slowing is Dale Gent, the race leader, but he should have enough in hand to get to the line. He's weaving almost as if he's run out of fuel. The checkered flag is within sight now, and Dale Gent comes through to win for the second time today. Dave Cockle in second place, and Ilse Cox to complete the podium. Meanwhile, in the Toyo Tyres Honda VTEC Challenge, it's a second victory for Robert Birkinshaw, with William Caswell second and Chris Criddle third. Our final group features the Your IT Man Pre-03 touring cars, where Benjamin Griffiths has so far endured a testing weekend.
Qualifying was pretty terrible. An AX went in the gravel at Paddock Hill in front of me. I thought I'd go around, do a lap and have another look, and ended up at the back of in the pits behind everyone else. I come out and there was traffic, so qualifying wasn't great. It was really slippy yesterday.
So we're all set for our final race here at Brands Hatch. After a titanic scrap in the first race, is the Ford Sierra of Craig Jamieson and the BMW of Carl Catliff on the front row, with Dave Hickton and Alex Owen on row 2. Lights about to go out, then they drop. A race gets underway. It's a terrible start, I'm afraid, for Carl Catliffe from the front row. He's going to go backwards. Mind you, he started near the back of the first race, so don't count him out just yet. There's contact further back. That's Robert May in the Toyota, who had a great first race, and he's tagged and sent around into a spin and out, pointing in the wrong direction already. So it is Jameson in the Sierra Cosworth that leads the pack up towards Druids Corner for the first time in the race, but Robert May is going no further in this one. Let's see if we can get a better idea of what happened as we go on board with him for the replay. And, just clipped by James Alford as he tried to squeeze through. I don't think James knew he was there. And off and around he went onto the grass. Back on track, it's Craig Jameson in the lead of the race. But up to second place, Carl Catliffe recovering in the number 26 BMW and drifting it round onto the start-finish straight. Got Dave Hicton just behind in another BMW running in third place as well. And on the fringe of the top 10, a good three-way Honda battle here between Phil Wright in the Accord and the Civic Type R's of Gareth Pilling and James Alford. And here's the scrap for fourth place between Luke Owen in the Honda and coming around the outside of him here with a daredevil move. That's the Astra of Simon Ward. Fantastic move on the way to Paddock Hill Bend. He gets very close to the edge there as he stares the gravel trap in the face, but survives and gets the move done. Sorry to say, Chris Brown looks like he's headed for the pits in his Fiesta. There's the Civic of Alexander Tate to just put a lap on Chris Baker in the Ford Escort. Further back, Fiesta versus Astra. The Fiesta is Brian Long, number 3. The Astra is Mark Finney at number 58. And they're absolutely wheel to wheel. Brian did a brilliant job in qualifying on Saturday in the wet to get himself on the third row. But of course, he hasn't quite got the power of a lot of the cars around him. Simon Ward's Astra now pulling away in fourth place from Luke Allen, who has been joined, not for the first time today, by Mark Fowler in that bright yellow BMW. Mark is right behind then as they make their way up Hurlwood Hill into the braking zone for Druids. Has a look at the inside, tries to sneak through. Luke just about gives him room here. Good driving from both of them. Is the BMW through yet, though, because Luke is going to have the better line for the left-hander coming over at Graham Hill Bend, but the BMW wrestles its way through just in the nick of time. Wherever you look, there are battles. Here's the Saab 9000 of Stephen Field making its way past Simon Arthrell's VW Golf. But Ayrton Rogers' Citroën is done for the day. Here's a good late race scrap. This is for 5th place in the Pre-03 division, and it's James Alford's green Civic just ahead of Ross Craig. And then you've got the 141 Ben Griffiths Honda Accord hunting them both down. After a late charge, Alex Owen in the Honda Civic is now up into 4th place and all over Dave Hicton's BMW for the final place on the podium. But the checkered flag is about to come out. It's going to be close again between these two, but it's Jameson just ahead of Catliffe. 0.089 seconds the difference between them. Craig Jameson, Alex Tate and John Davis, the top 3 in the Ford division. Carl Catliffe wins his class, and then it's Dave Hicton and Simon Ward, 2nd and 3rd in the Pre-93s. And finally, in the Pre-03 division, another victory for Alex Owen with Luke Allen 2nd and Gareth Pilling 3rd. And that wraps up our coverage from Brands Hatch. It's been a fantastic day of classic touring cars. Hope you've enjoyed it. Bye for now.